And actually, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Because I know me.
And you don't have to understand my boundaries to respect them.
Well, no, I'm the president and co-founder of McShin, a personal long-term recovery from substance abuse disorder.
Oh, goodness.
Like, okay, I gotta work on that.
Yeah.
Like,
Celebrating my 6 months. Didn't have a cake.
Yeah.
Gosh, you
showed
scared me.
up.
Man, I love a cold opening. How everybody? It's just like, bam, we're in.
We're in. In there.
Wow. All right, everybody. Hey, listen, welcome to another episode of the award-winning recovery podcast, Get in the Herd. You know, I'm your host, Nathan Mitchell, and today we've got a veteran returning back here. I just realized as we were watching the new opening, by the way, Art, every single time I see that, I'm just like amazed.
Tatyana, you're in the.
Yeah.
You're in there.
How freaking awesome that is. But
you have a legacy.
you have a legacy, yeah. And it won't change for another 3 years, so you're stuck. So
Four.
four.
Yeah.
So Tatyana over here is with us, joining us on the show, and then of course Chris Schaefer, which I was surprised to find out, Chris, that you have not been on the show before, because as I said earlier, you are by far and away the loudest and most talkative person in this building, and that's coming from me. So welcome, and Art, as always, great to have you here. We've asked you here today to talk about, just to talk about your recovery journeys, but also you, Chris, have been staff for a little bit now, a few months here at the McShin Foundation. You're also a house leader at our sort of half step up house.
Yes, semi-intensive.
Semi-intensive, and you have as I understand, you have some experience with addiction and recovery.
A little bit,
yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about all that stuff, but also we have Tatyana back on the show because you, I just found out, have a new position here with the McShin Foundation. Actually, no, you're not working for McShin, are you? No. Well, okay, so let's talk about what you both do here at the McShin Foundation, because it's really vital work that you do. So let me start with Chris, and then Chris, go ahead and introduce what Tatyana, and the show. All right. So go ahead, Chris, man. What do you do here?
So I'm in charge of the urine collection and analysis, and then also with working in the medication room. So helping the participants kind of manage doctor's appointments, visits, making sure that they have their medications, getting refills, that kind of thing.
Okay, yeah, that's and how important of a role do you think that is around here?
Well, I think that's one of the most important things around here, because I know, like for me, when I first came in, being on medication, it was vital that my mental health stuff was addressed first before anything else can be addressed. Because if I'm not mentally there, nothing else you're going to say is going to make a difference to me at that point.
So let's see, we have about 150-ish participants here at the McShin Foundation, give or take. I mean, we have about 150 odd beds. If we're full, we have almost 160, something like that. So let's say we have between 130 and 140. I'm totally spitballing here, right? I'm guessing out of 130 out of 140, maybe you have like 2-3 people who are on medications.
It would make my job a lot easier if that was the case. I think our numbers are right around 85% of people that are in our housing are on some form of medication.
Yeah. So you've got everything from MAT or MAR. Some people call it medicated assisted recovery, or medicated assisted. Man, I'm all tongue tied today. Words. MAR, MAT, same thing. I know that you're responsible for ensuring that our participants have their meds and are safely dispensed. Tell me, are you a doctor? Are you a pharmacist? Any kind of clinician?
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. That's too much school for me.
Too much school?
Way too much school for me.
Okay.
No, I mean, we more or less, we just make sure that we have an addiction specialist. We have an addiction specialist that we send our participants to, so that they can get their medications from a proper clinician.
Okay.
And then we just monitor the fact that these people are taking their medications.
Perfect. And so there's a secondary aspect to your job, your role, and that is the drug screening.
Correct.
And so I understand we've got if we have 150 people in here, we have to constantly, make sure we're monitoring people and doing our, our randomized screening. But I understand that because of the number of people and the number of urine screens we do on a regular basis, something new has just happened, and that's why we've got someone right here next to me. So tell me if you want to introduce Tatyana over here.
Yeah, so this is Tatyana. She's actually Aegis, our drug testing company, decided that because of the volume that we have, that they wanted to bring somebody in to do the collection, and so that's her role now. She's currently an employee with Aegis.
How do you feel about that? This is a pretty big transition, and you still live in our housing. Is that correct?
No, I'm not even a participant.
You're not a participant.
No.
See, I was very confused about that. All right, so all right, cool. I'm so glad. Say, listen. I'm a guy. I know some of the women in the programs, but for the most part, guys, women. So tell me, how did you find the McShin Foundation?
So I go to VCU and I'm actually majoring in HPEX. So you have to have 2 interns, and McShin was on the list of like the intern list they gave us, and I called twice. I didn't actually Christina answered the phone. Hey Christina.
Shout out Christina.
She called me back and asked me did I still want to take the internship here, and I said yes. So I came and talked to Jesse, and I started back in I think May, and in like the beginning of July they converted to Aegis. So Ed asked me to work for him, and I said yes, and now I'm employed with Aegis.
So we're giving a lot of shout out to Aegis here right now, and to Ed specifically. So Ed, if you're listening or watching, and I hope you send this to him, this belly here needs some Chick-fil-A. I'm allowing it now. All right. Or some of those. What was those little bunt cake things he brought?
Oh yeah.
Buntinis. Buntinis.
That sounds alcoholic.
That's what
Or,
that's what it's from.
A green screen, couches. I mean,
Yeah,
stuff for
Ed.
podcasts.
Ed, I mean, seriously, this is a sponsorship opportunity right here, man.
I know one of the things that's nice about that with Aegis is that they are going to they're one of our big sponsors for our Recovery Fest.
Oh,
So
fantastic!
they are one of our larger donors.
That's awesome, and they have done an incredible amount of work helping us to future-proof our work. Essentially by making sure that we've got. The lab. Well, I don't mean to sound like a commercial for these guys, but I have been really impressed by what they're doing because, making sure that we're able to isolate a lot of substances that weren't on, previous drug screens. So, well, continuing over here with Tatyana. So you are an intern at VCU, or I mean, sorry, you're a student at VCU,
Yes.
and you came here to become an intern. Are you still a student at VCU?
Yes, I graduate in December.
You do?
Yeah.
That's freaking awesome. What are you gonna graduate with?
My bachelor's in HPEX, which is like health science, exercise science, and physical education.
Right
Yes.
on. Well, Christina. Well, not Christina. Monique has been working really hard to bring that wellness program here. Yeah, I hope you get involved. So, what made you want to get into this?
So I have a couple people in my family who actually abuse and use. My uncle is not recovering, but he is an alcoholic. I've lived closely, with him my whole life. So seeing him like that, like, sparked my interest in like the recovery field. But I didn't think I was that interested until I came here, and I was like, oh yeah, I see a lot of resemblance. So now I'm here, and
So wait, you saw the crazy, and you're like, yeah, I want to be a part of that.
yeah.
That's awesome. I like that. Yeah, I'm glad you're here. Glad you've been brought into the McShin Aegis fold here. Chris, talking about what we do, talking about what we do as far as screens, and you do a lot every week. I know you do, and I know that I've been here at the McShin Foundation for a little over 4.5 years, and I've been a staff member for almost 4 years, and I've seen a lot of that position come and go. And I have to say, I mean, at this point, like, we have 15 houses now. Like, this is the biggest we've ever been. And you're probably, at least in the top 3 organized of the people I've seen in this position with the most amount of people. So what are you doing, man? How do you do all this and manage a house?
Well, I mean, part of gentleman that was in the position before me, obviously set a pretty good precedent as far as like the organization, and he really did a lot to build up the management of it. Obviously, it'll change. Every time participants change, names change. We have to kind of make adapt to that. If we ever open a new house, obviously that'll be something we adapt to. But biggest thing for me was separating all your participants by house. So everything's documented. Each house has like a folder. The participants in there listed with whatever they take as far as medicine, so I can quickly reference if we need to get that information quickly. It's right there, at my disposal. And then I'm actually trying to get better at using Google Docs so we can track the urine screens that the participants takes as, according to what is required for their time, here.
Okay. Well, tell me. All right. So great. This is your job. Perfect. But you're also a house leader.
Correct.
And you're a participant of the McShin Foundation.
Correct.
You've been here
for some time.
I've known you for a while. What's going on, my friend? Talk about your recovery.
Last time I was here, I had 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out.
Yeah.
I think actually the COO of this foundation, Jesse, actually one day said,
Wasaki.
Yeah, Mr. Wasaki said, he said, you do enough to get seen, but not enough to get noticed. So I was always in the building. You'd always see me, but you didn't know what I was actually doing. I kind of worked hard at that because I wasn't doing the right thing. And so when I came back this time, it was actually my last incarceration, because of COVID, 14-day quarantine period. So you're in a cell by yourself for 14 days.
14 days.
And that was that time that gave me that time to really sit with self
Yeah.
and think about, all the decisions that I'd made. And, you can't get away from yourself when you're sitting by yourself. And that was enough to wake me up. Like, everything I keep doing, all the decisions I make always lead me back to this same spot, is sitting in the same jail cell.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what I'm going to do when I get out, I'm going to do something different. And the biggest thing I did was I stayed connected while I was incarcerated with the people in the recovery community here in Richmond. I reached out to one of the guys, Rob, Grateful Rob. He was somebody that I reached out to on a regular basis. And of course, Chelsea, I stayed in almost daily contact with her the whole time I was incarcerated. So the day I got out at 6 a.m, at 6:30, they were in the parking lot. They picked me up, brought me back. And I haven't looked back since.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. And you've been in recovery now. How long have you been back?
October 11th was the day I came. I got out October 10th, which was a Sunday. Of course, they didn't want to do an intake on Sunday. So I had to wait till the next day. So I stayed with Chelsea at her house and then came, here Monday morning.
You're talking McShin did not want to put you in because of Sunday? Oh.
It was a Sunday. Honestly, I think they wanted to see if I was willing just to stick around.
I have a feeling it was more like that
That's
because
what
I know people come in on Sundays.
That's what I guess it was. They wanted to sit down and have a conversation with me because while I was incarcerated, I wrote to them saying that I wanted to do the intensive program versus just coming back to sober living, which is what I'd done in the past. I wanted to try something different.
Yeah.
And so, obviously we had to have a conversation about that, because it's a different avenue.
Yeah.
And so they wanted, we just wanted to make sure that I was aware of what I was getting myself into. And, so it worked out,
It's interesting you brought up Chelsea because, as we get to know people here and see people progress, you've been around for a little while now with the different stints you've been here, and like just seeing people from day one. I think I happen to think that's like my favorite part of this job or my favorite part of being here. I won't even say my job. It's my favorite part of being around recovery is seeing the day one and watching the progression.
Yeah, that's one of the beautiful things of my, being in that office that I'm in.
Yeah,
is that everybody when they first come in, typically I'd say about 90% of them end up in my office, to check in their medications or do the baseline urine screen. So I do get to see them at day one when they first get here, and then over the course of time as they come in, they come in first day, kind of downtrodden.
Yeah.
And then, a couple of months later, they're coming in with a big smile on their face and they're happy about life and things are starting to go well. So it is nice to see that.
Yeah. What are the pitfalls of, well, I don't know. I mean, what do you see in your job that switching over here to Tatyana, which I think is the coolest name, by the way. I meant to tell you that earlier, especially when I called to ask how to spell it with the Y. I think that's a cool last name.
Thank
Uh,
you.
what do you see as the challenges for your position? So you're essentially working with Aegis
Hmm.
and making sure that all the data is correct, right?
Hmm.
What are you seeing in that? Are you seeing anything, any trends? Are you seeing any problems or?
Um, Not really. Just a lot of birthdays missing, so you have to go scavenger hunting for participants' birthdays.
A lot of
But
birthdays missing.
other
Yeah.
than that, no, I don't really see any hard work or struggles to
Mm.
complete my job.
Well, so you're basically sending out the tests,
Hmm.
the lab tests, right? From the lab cups. How quickly is the turnaround? So, like you say, we send it today. If I give you a sample today, you send it out this evening. When will you get results back from?
Probably like in 2 days.
In 2 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we sent some out yesterday, so they should be here either by the end of today or tomorrow morning.
Okay. I'm a person in recovery, and I've lived in our housing. I've been a house leader. Okay, and I know you're a house leader. Art, you're an assistant house leader, about to be a house leader. And I know for me, before I was even a staff member, I was a house leader. And as a house leader, when I'm boots on the ground, right there, Friday evening, 2 o'clock in the morning, participant comes in, obviously, you know, off their tits.
For lack of a
That's
better word.
that's that's a technical term.
Yeah, Cat's pajamas.
Cats, but that's not how you use that phrase. Art, but okay, so participant comes in, they're obviously, somehow intoxicated, or even if they're not, frankly. Actually, that's the better example is all right, it's Thursday afternoon. Somebody's been called to this is what you do. So as your job, right? Your job, Chris, is to make sure that the randomized tests happen. So you send out a list. My understanding is you send a list every day.
Typically, yeah, every day.
Yeah, to the
It,
house.
it depends. I mean, sometimes to keep it completely random so that nobody has an idea of exactly when they're coming.
Mhm.
There may be a day where I send out 50 people's names,
Mhm.
and then there may be a day where I just send out 10, and I try to mix up houses each week so nobody's like, okay, Tuesday's our testing day, and then they start to kind of plan around that.
Yeah, perfect, right?
I've done that.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
done that. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, I usually get tested every other Tuesday. I've heard participants tell me that. And I'm like, wait, no.
Yeah.
But so you send a list out to the house leaders, correct?
correct.
Right. And
4:30 every day.
yeah, so they have 24 hours from that point. Is that correct?
Correct.
To get up here to take the test.
Yeah, typically,
More or less.
Yeah, unless there's something where they're like stuck at work all day,
Right.
And they can't get out of work or something like that, then we'll give permission for their house leadership to take the sample. But yeah, it's within a 24-hour period of the time that the text message goes out.
And we don't want to go specifically into the protocols, but we have a whole system of a whole protocol set for how we take a sample, right? And so that is much more controlled. It's better when it's here, right?
Absolutely.
As a house leader, like I know, I've had the instant cups, and sometimes I would have the lab cups, but I almost always use the instant cups at the house, because usually if I'm doing it at the house, it's because I have a suspicion,
Correct.
of use, right? Every once in a while, oh, I just need a sample because they were on a vacation for 2 or 3 days, and they get back, and I want to take a sample, and I can do that in a lab cup generally. I'm speaking very broadly, but there's sometimes when I know somebody's using, and I know it may not show up on a test. So I know for me as a house leader, it was always important to me to work with the individual I'm testing to see if I can get the individual, the participant, to get to the truth before the cup. And it's not, this isn't for me, and I know it's not for you and you. I mean, I know this. It's not a gotcha thing. It's how can we get to the solution, right? The problem is the participants using, right? The solution is, all right, how do we get into a recovery action plan and put that into action, right? There's the solution into action. And oftentimes, because we were talking about how it takes 2 days, from the testing. Now that's great. Like, for the most part, that works well. But I know for me, there are some times when I need to make sure that I get an answer quicker than 2 days. And I think it's really really important that people in recovery who know this stuff, like I can look at somebody, I can't always tell. Sometimes I'm wrong. Some people might look at me and think he is high as, because I know I can be extra, and I can, my jersey comes out and I get fast talking. I saw Frank Cordovano up there too, but so I know that while we have this like wonderful system and it's very scientific and it's a lot of data and it's very, very well controlled, like that is only a percentage of the work that we have to do to ensure the safety of our participants. It is so on the house leaders to make sure that we're doing our jobs and watching out for our participants, the other peer leaders living in the house to make sure we're watching and observing. And I'll tell you, as a house leader, there are a couple things that I would always do. Like in my head, like when I was a house leader, I kind of had a running idea of where everybody was at all the times. It's just kind of the way my mind works. We had 10 guys I lived with over at 9 guys I lived with over at Chamberlain. And I kind of, all right, so and so's at work, so and so's not at work, blah, 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 blah. And every once in a while, I was working up here at that time. So, I'd run home sometimes to get lunch or something. Every once in a while, I get a little surprise. Oh, I see you're just sitting on the couch with your girlfriend at 2:00 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. How's that fit with your recovery plan? And oh, by the way, that's against the rules, right? But so like observing behavior, right? And sometimes because yes, the using happens and we get to that point where we need to test and the using happens, but before that happens, often there's all these behaviors that happen. Walt always talks about using before. What does he always say? You work with Walt every week. Art, what does he say?
What do you mean?
Art's
He's over there watching YouTube.
Yeah, he's talking to Frank and Patrick up here. Walt always says the relapse before the relapse, before the
definitely.
relapse.
You could usually tell before someone's gonna relapse. Not relapse, but have a reoccurrence of use.
Yeah, recurrence. Yeah.
I mean, for me, so far, like being an assistant and working with Rob, he's kind of talked to me about staying close to the guys that you live with, communication. Kind of like what you were saying is kind of knowing where people are at, what they're doing, where they're working at, and like not just to keep tabs on them, but more just like because the closer you are to the people you live with, you're gonna see these things coming before they happen.
Right.
So maybe you can prevent it.
Picking up is the last thing we do.
Yeah.
That's what he says. Thank you, Patrick. Patrick Jones up there putting it in the comments. I love it. Because you're right. When I'm an effective house leader, like you were saying, right? Like if I'm with the guys and I want to be with the guys, like I'm not a house leader trying to be all, sanctimonious and holier than thou and trying to get people in trouble. Like I took that seriously. I took that very seriously. I think that's one of the best things that I'm always saying it's the best, but one of the best things that we've got going here at the McShin Foundation are the dedicated peer leaders, and most of those are house leaders that we have who are constantly looking out for the guys they work with, to observe the patterns, to watch and see what's going on and help each other. I was very cognizant and aware. Cognizant and aware. I'm being redundant here. Aware of court dates. You maybe you recognize this pattern. I know for me watching people who have court dates, there's a lot of stress that comes from that.
I mean, especially if you're thinking about the idea that the person may lose their freedom. It may be. I know for me in the past, I've gone through that where I know that I was going to court with jail time coming up.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what, let me get one last one in before I, go in. Let me enjoy my time. And so that has been a part of my story through my journey. Luckily, I am done with court.
Ooh, doesn't that feel good?
I got 2 more months of probation left and I'll be off 5 years early.
Ooh, how's that feel?
I'm scared. To be honest with you, cause like that, having that time over my head, it's like that safety net in the back when that's gone. Like obviously I don't expect to go out and do anything, but there's always that opportunity now because the time is gone. Yeah. So it becomes now really more about self versus, the external holding me in place.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up. I mean, kind of pushing a little on tangent for a second, but it's really this is a pattern thing, right? When a pattern in somebody's life changes, right? When something changes in my life, my emotions are there, and working through those, and I have historically not worked through my emotions very well. What I've historically done is use drugs and alcohol to fix those things, right? I love it. But, Patrick, I'll get to your comments in a second here. Shit, where was I? No, but
He's
seriously,
messing me up with his comments too.
yeah.
Because
So
I know the pod that he's talking about.
so yeah, well, so what you're talking about though is like getting off probation, and finally, it's like, okay, great, nobody's actually watching me.
Yeah.
And even though you and I and all four of us in this room know that we can use regardless of whether somebody's watching. We've all, well, I don't know if we've all done it, but we've all known somebody who's done it. Certainly minimized the consequences, gone out and found new charges, or I mean, frankly, worse, gone out and died. And not to bring that down to such a sour note. And, I'm glad you recognize this in yourself, because when I got off probation, right, I knew, just from watching people around me, being around recovery, seeing patterns. I look for patterns. I'm a pattern finding guy, and so when I see that, okay, when anything criminal justice related happens, there's a real big chance that the people involved might relapse. And I was really concerned about that, when I was doing that. And I got off probation at the beginning of the pandemic, which was total coincidence, obviously. But when I was getting off probation, and I was thinking, when I was planning to get off probation, like, I knew I needed to have something extra for me in place, and that's when I planned my trip around the country. Because I'm like, all right, now I can do it, and I don't have to ask permission. And let's have something to look forward to, something that builds towards purpose, something that gives me goals and things that I can knock off my list as I go through. Because honestly, all this recovery shit is great, but if I don't have a reason to get up in the morning, I don't know. I might just do something silly. So it's really cool that you're noticing that. And it's really cool as a house leader. Like, when I'm with my guys, man, it's like, all right, what you going on? What you got going on? Because our house, I loved our house meetings, like our, in the house meetings.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a matter of you never did the dishes and that kind of stuff. Like, no, we talked. We always talked and made something good out of that. I think. I don't know. Ask people who were in my house at the time. I don't know. But it was always something to be aware of, because yes, the work that you are doing is so important, and I want to make sure that we have things in place before that happens, Yeah. All right. I don't know. I'm rambling. Let's go back to the comments here. What?
I was gonna say, like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
know one of the things that, like, I try to do with my guys is we like to watch a lot of comedy specials.
Yeah.
Just because comedy tends to bring everybody around, they like to laugh, and if you're in a bad mood, it helps to bring you right out of a mood. So you might not get them to talk about it, but you may be able to get them to help them work through it without them having to be talking about it. Because a lot of people don't come in after 20 days or 30 days and they're ready to just divulge all their feelings right away. I know I didn't.
No.
I wasn't ready. I wasn't there. So, like, for me to be able to just, like, turn off one emotion and go to to joy, without having to talk about it, was like the bridge to where I'm at now, when I was coming through. So that's one of the things I like to do, is I like to make my guys laugh with us.
From EPOD to medication coordinator. Yeah. And hey, it is crazy though, because I've known you and I've seen you not so good.
Yes.
And I've seen you doing what you're doing now. And I love, Patrick, what you said there. Yes, the beard is epic. Yes, I think we need to get you some it's emolument? Some unctuous stuff. We need to get you some beard stuff.
I've got two things of beard oil in my office,
Yeah?
right next to my cologne collection.
Does Ed bring it for you?
No. Chelsea brought me one, and I bought the other one. It's actually when he says EPOD, that's actually where I met Patrick Jones.
Oh, okay.
But we didn't actually meet in a pod. We were actually being transported from the jail to the courthouse because it's such a large distance. We have to get in a van.
Yeah.
And this was back in 2019 when I was still fighting the charges that I'm currently on probation for. And, my whole idea was, let me get out of jail, right? That was my whole mindset, whatever it takes to get out of jail. And I was just talking about it in the back of the van. It just so happened that Patrick Jones, who I didn't know him at the time, was sitting across from me, and we had a conversation. And, he mentioned McShin, and so I got my sister to look into, that's my alarm on my phone.
Oh,
And so he told me about McShin, and that's my sister ended up looking into the program, and my aunt, and they got me going. And so that's how I originally came here. And then however long it was for him to continue with the stint that he was doing, he ended up coming back out. And I was sitting in Mo's office one day, and he just walked in. And I'm looking at him like, I know this guy. And it took me a couple seconds to realize who he was. But
does he owe me money?
yeah, but that's Patrick's actually the reason that I ended up coming to Richmond.
Oh, wow.
Like
Look at that.
I would have never known about McShin until if it wasn't for the fact that Patrick was in the back of that van that day.
Man, I love that because there are a lot of stories like that. So all right, so we've dominated the conversation a lot over here, Tatyana. But I kind of want to talk about. I want to talk a little bit about like your VCU degree. You don't have to talk about your family if you don't want to, but like, tell me what was school like, man? What do you want to do with it? Like, what are you doing? What are you gonna do with yourself when you grow up?
So I guess I can start with my family. So
Sure.
My mother's mom, which is my grandmother, she died when she was like in her 30s. She contracted HIV and AIDS, but she was also a heavy drug user, and I think her choice of drug was like crack or cocaine. It was one of them. So it started there, and then when she passed away, my mom and her siblings, they moved to Virginia because they're not initially from here. And then I think that's when my uncle got older. Of course, he started using because his father is a recovering alcoholic of like 20 something years. So he was put through, I guess, the trauma
Yeah.
of losing his mother or my grandmother and not really having anyone to talk to about it because it's not okay for men to show their emotion in society. So I think that he just hasn't really realized come to senses or emotion because men shut their emotions off. So he turned to alcohol, and that's when he becomes more emotional. So that's when I started I was always his rescuer. Every time something happened, he always calls me and can you come save me? So I go save him, of course, because I can't I can't not save him. But with my degree, I wanted to become a dental hygienist. So this is not even anywhere in my field. So I go to VCU. I'm a senior, which I graduate in December. I applied to the dental hygiene program, which is super competitive at VCU because it's the #1 medical center. So they only accept 10 students. And at the time when I was a freshman, my freshman class was 5,000.
Oh, wow.
So 19 students out of 5,000, straight A's. I have super good grades, but straight A's, 4.0, that's all they were accepting. And so I didn't get accepted. So I chose a different route because at the beginning my degree was in biology to become a dental hygienist and then a dentist, and then I changed it to HPEX, which you can still do the dental hygiene thing. And then I came here, and now I'm thinking about changing from dental hygiene. So I don't really know yet. I haven't really. I say dental hygiene, but I don't know.
The dental hygiene
Yeah.
thing.
I don't know.
Oh, nothing about that.
Yeah.
Oof. Well, if you want, I'll give you my dentures. I'm not going to take them out. Just I'm worried about, not because I care what they think, but it's more of I don't have I have glue. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no.
So I don't know. I don't know exactly. Yeah, no, please don't. No, but I don't know exactly what I want to do yet. But I do know that I want to return back to school to get my master's.
Both Art and I would really appreciate it if you became a dentist and quickly.
Dentist and quickly.
We both have thousands and thousands of
But
dollars
my
of
dream,
worth of work.
because I don't know, my dream was to open up a dentist office because a lot of people, they don't even get a basic cleaning.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of search around to find someone that accepts, if you even have insurance, to accept your insurance. And a lot of people just need the basic cleaning to even know what's wrong with your teeth,
Basic cleaning is done once every 10 years?
Once it's no. It's supposed to be every 6 months.
If there's any dentists out there that would like to work with the McShin Foundation, I mean, we could sure use some help.
I know back at home.
Talking to you, Dr. Ababacher. Talking to you.
I know back at home at our community college, they actually open up and let the students, do free dental cleanings, which is pretty cool. And I'm surprised that colleges and community colleges around here don't do it because our homeless population is so high.
Yeah.
And like for a basic cleaning, when you go for a basic cleaning, they pretty much tell you like if you have cavities, if you need dentures, if you need implants, stuff like that. So I feel like that's why I really wanted to do it, because personally I like going to the dentist, and as a kid I stayed in the dentist. Like I had cavities galore because I loved candy.
Still does.
Yeah, still does. Still does, but not as much. I try not to eat it as much because I've had a lot of like caps and cavities and stuff. So I try to stay away from the sweets, but I still love candy fruits. So yeah.
Ooh, actually, I just wanted to shout out Dr. Lenore, my new dentist. No, for real, helped me out. First time extracted a tooth for me for free, which was awesome.
Yeah, and a lot of dentists like now, they don't extract for free, because I used to work at a dentist's office too, and like when we would have patients come in, we would have like emergency appointments for people like that needed extractions, and you still had to charge them because it was emergency. And like for you, it may have been an emergency, but he didn't charge you because he seen that you were like severely in pain. You know?
Yeah, the first time I went there, he did it for free. We made a connection, and he did it for free. The second one wasn't, but
well, yeah,
we're working together.
The first taste is always free.
Yeah.
He does good work though.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good shout out, Dr. Lenore. Shout out to Dr. Lenore for giving us a happier art. He's been cranky as F.
Yeah, and you also don't find like a lot of nice dentists. I know if I find a dentist that is like super like overpowering and aggressive, I'm like, I don't even want you to touch my mouth, because yeah. So I feel like some dentists you have that are caring, and some of them are just about the money. So they're going to be like, okay, like, I'm just going to pull your tooth and you're going to pay for it. But it's like, they don't actually know, or they think that you're not in pain. Like, my tooth is hanging by the thread and I'm telling you I'm in pain. They're like, well, what's the pain level? My face is swollen. Like, it's just, I don't get it. But
here, give me your mouth and let me just, here's my fist.
Let me just yank it out. So
yeah, it's hey, Debbie Rosenbaum over there. Good to see you, Nathan and Art. Debbie is our chairwoman of the board. Good to see you. I know that you've been busy. Well, so I'm really glad you shared that. So now you're thinking about switching again, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I haven't really looked. I do know I want to get my master's degree, but I don't know in what yet. So we'll stay tuned, because I don't know.
What extracurriculars did you do?
Like in school? Yeah. I mean, I was a cheerleader.
You were a cheerleader?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I was a cheerleader.
Can you give us a McShin cheer?
Maybe one day.
Give us an M. Give us a C.
No,
C.
I volunteered at like the Boys and Girls Club back at home.
Ooh.
Because I also went there as a kid. I pretty much just cheered and worked.
Cheered and worked.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah. And flipped across the mat. And I was one of the ones that did like the back flips.
Oh, so you got like some gymnastics background. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I love that stuff. That stuff's insanely cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you. I'm so glad you shared. What do we want to talk about? What's going on in the world? We got like another 10 minutes.
So, Chris, I wanted to ask you a little bit about those novel designer.
Wow, that's a long list, boy.
Yeah, it's a crazy list.
I think our list is roughly 100 novel psychoactive substances that we test for that are typically not tested for in traditional testing.
Yeah, I saw the list, and before coming to McShin, I was one that ventured out into that stuff. The designer benzos.
Yeah.
And that stuff really affected me.
Yeah, I mean, some of the things on there, some of the worst things on there, like we one of the things we test for is xylazine, which is a horse tranquilizer, and people take it because it mimics like an opioid effect. But the issue is that there's no control on the substance that you're getting, and there's nothing to counteract the substance once you take it.
Yeah.
So, obviously, if you take too much of it, there's nothing that anybody can do to bring you back. I mean, it's just Narcan doesn't work on it, even though it mimics the same effects because it's a different, chemical structure. But most of our substances that we test for all mimic a particular drug that it would be either prescribed or, produced illicitly. But they just change like one chemical compound. And of course, that causes different metabolites in the body. And it also causes the drug testing panels to not typically pick up on it because of the chemical structure being just slightly different.
Yeah.
So as soon as, people start testing for one, they just change one one chemical or one, component of it, and all of a sudden you can't test for it. Now they got to recreate a new test. So our menu actually just expanded last week.
Menu.
Aegis's menu, just expanded last week. And one of the things that I like about the partnership is that if there's something that we think that a particular person is using that we don't test for, we can request that testing and they can provide that testing for us.
I think that's actually really helpful.
Yeah, we have a really close relationship with the representative from Aegis. I mean, he comes in, at least once a week. He drives from Chesapeake up here, and just to stop in and check in how we're doing. I talk to him almost on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's nice is like when those novel components show up on these urine screens, he'll send me a message and say, "Hey, I had some, one of the screens pop up with, this substance in it." Now he can't see the name obviously because of the legal restrictions, but he can see the number, the order number, and then I can go in and pull that one up first, and that way we can address that, that one, uniquely first before we get to, anything that might be like a medication mismanagement issue or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that stuff's important because I think, like in the 80s we had the whole cocaine crack epidemic. Now it's like an opiate epidemic. I think now we're living in a time where it's like a designer synthetic drug epidemic where they keep coming out with this new stuff to try to,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's absolutely, because you got, people that are like on probation. I mean, most probation officers don't test for this kind of stuff. So these people can use the entire time they're on probation and still piss, clean for their probation officer. So
that makes it legal for them to purchase it.
Yeah, you just order it off the internet and it ships right to your front door via the postman.
Yeah.
And then, you can use it and go right in to see your probation officer under the influence and still give them a clean sample.
Yeah.
So I know one of the things that like I've obviously because we have close relationships with the other organizations around town, is I've put those organizations in contact with Aegis so that they can, see if that's something that they want to take on at their organization as well. Because I do know that, obviously for me, if I think I can get away with something, typically I'll try it.
Yeah.
That's just me. So I know that there, if that's happening here, I know what's happening in other organizations.
Not only that, I think a lot of times people think because it's legal or they can find it on the internet, they don't think it's as dangerous. But some of this stuff is a lot more dangerous than than maybe a prescription for Xanax would be. That liquid flualprazolam and stuff really is heavy, and it's like the dosing is like so all over the place. Some of it's strong, some of it's not strong. So like your dosing could just take you out.
Yeah, I know. I sat in a conference last week with a bunch of experts from around the country that are working on these novel, substances. And they were talking about, obviously like one called nitinazine, and it's supposed to be 20 times stronger on average than fentanyl is, so, I mean, people are dying from fentanyl and they're producing something that's 20 times stronger than what people are already dying from. And that's stuff that we're seeing in some of the screens that we're getting.
What, nitinazine?
Nitinazine.
Is it an opiate?
It's an opiate. It's a novel substance that mimics opiates.
So Narcan's not going to be effective on that. Yeah.
It changes the chemical structure just enough that it, it's resistant to almost everything else.
This is what's so scary to me. Like we're having these battles now to make sure that we have access to naloxone, and for the most part, naloxone is a lot easier to get than it was several years ago, and first responders are getting it, and it's there and it's available, and we're still fighting some battles to make sure that it's accessible to people. But it's kind of like we're fighting yesterday's battle.
Yeah, it's going to be obsolete soon. I mean,
what are the trends, man? Like, so you just had this conference, or what are the trends that are being seen, around the country, but also here in Virginia? Like, have you noticed anything different in the last couple of months that you've been here?
Well, I mean, obviously, we're always going to see. I mean, opioids right now are the big thing, around this area. So I mean, it's going to be ever changing. Mostly what we see, we don't see a lot of actual heroin anymore. It's mostly all fentanyl anymore. Yeah. You don't see, the old school drugs that we typically saw. But also those novel substances are starting to get mixed in with the fentanyl that people are getting. So one of the things that I learned is that, the fentanyl is typically coming across the border from Mexico or from China. And then people are adding like the xylazine and stuff like that, those substances that you can buy off the internet to the fentanyl. So they're making like a mixture of a compound trying to become like that unique dealer that has something that nobody else has.
Yeah.
And, of course, then you have somebody in, their bathroom mixing up what you choose to use, which obviously they're just, cutting up powders and they have no clue what they're doing. So, they're essentially just killing their clientele, which is, I never understood that.
Yeah.
But I know, I know one of the conversations we had was like in Philadelphia in particular, they said that when they, in 2020, 80% of the fentanyl that they seized from the streets had that xylazine in it, which is that horse tranquilizer mixed into it.
In 2020.
In 2020,
Wow.
it's been around for a while. It's just it hasn't been as common. And from what I understand, is when you add that to fentanyl, it mimics like how heroin has like a longer high, whereas fentanyl is a very short high. Heroin has a longer one. When you mix that xylazine in with the fentanyl, it mimics the heroin high, so the high lasts a lot longer. So that's why they're adding that to it, unbeknownst to the person that's adding it to it, what it's actually doing to the person they're giving it to.
Yeah, I mean I've been hearing about xylazine. I'm glad you brought it up, and I guess the horse tranquilizer piece is what hits me because one of the substances I used on a regular basis was ketamine, which is also a horse tranquilizer, and so that was when my little addict ears perked up, and I've been listening and following xylazine too. Have you seen it around here? Have we seen it yet?
We've there's been 2 screens that I've had when people came in with xylazine in their system. And it's were people that were using on the street before they came here.
Yeah.
I have yet to see anybody who's been in our organization as like a part of our organization show up with that in their system. But people upon their intake, when they do that initial baseline, I've had 2 people come in with it in their system.
Well, I see, I appreciate y'all being here today. It's a good time to start landing the plane here. What else do we have to say here? You have any last thoughts about this conversation? We originally started today thinking, let's talk to Tatyana about the new job here. And I mean, I kind of knew that's not an hour-long conversation. I knew that. But I want to make sure that, if there's anything that we missed. By the way, I'm loving the pink and the North Face logo. It's matching. Oh, I'm sorry. It's matching my new pink shirt. I look like a big piece of bubble gum. Damn it.
Bubblicious.
Don't you start calling me that. Bubblicious. That's my rapper name.
Here comes Bubbles.
Little Bubble.
Bubblicious bubbles.
Actually, I can go for Bubblicious. Yeah, Bubblicious works for me. Little Bubble. Anyway.
Little bubble.
LIL, not little.
Little
bubble.
Yeah,
I was trying to say little Bubblicious, but that don't work. That doesn't work. Bubblicious. What? Bubblicious. I like that.
Double bubble.
Double.
Too many bubbles.
I might have to. Hey, so look, if you like the pink shirt, and believe me, it'll look much better on you than me. See this? This is the McShin Hope Dealer T-shirt. These are available through bonfire.com. You have to look for the McShin Foundation. The Hope Dealer T-shirts and the McShin Foundation coffee mugs are available all the time. We're going to update with some new limited edition T-shirts every once in a while. But if you have a cool design you want to throw at us, by all means. And we will have another Get in the Herd article of clothing coming out soon. We're just going to wait and see what the hoodies look like, the Get in the Hoodies. Get in the hoodies. We're going to see what those look like and how those feel. Decide whether we want to continue with that particular design or if we want to change that up. I like changing things up. I like to, But anyway, anything else? Well, this was about you. I make everything about me.
Okay.
Anything that we missed that you want to talk about?
No.
Any shout outs? No. Oh, no. Shout out VCU. Go Rams.
Oh, thank you.
Go Rams, go.
Go Rams, go. Go Rams, go. Mr. Schaefer.
That'll make Zach happy.
Go Rams, go.
Yeah.
because he graduated.
He graduated VCU, so it's VCU and the other guys, which is the Richmond.
Yeah.
University of Richmond. They're the other guys. Like he won't even say their name.
Hey, listen, I'm currently doing a leadership program through VCU and DBHGS, so I'm Ram adjacent. Anyway,
You're in the herd.
Hey. Oh my goodness. Let's land this plane, Chris. What you got?
Oh man, I don't really have anything else.
All right.
Because if I start talking about anything else, I'll go on for hours. You'll have to literally snip it off.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. Good to see you. Thank you for being here today. Art.
Thank you guys for coming on the show. Thank you guys for all the work you guys are doing. You guys holding down the fort over there at the medication office.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Hey, listen, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, being a part of this today. Again, Art, for being our phenomenal, amazing media guru. I think that should be on your business card. Media guru.
Media guru.
Media guru. And of course, Chris and Tatyana for being here. Again, I love that name, Tatyana. Tatyana.
Thank you.
We will see you all back here in the herd next Tuesday. Don't know what we got going Tuesday and Wednesday. Oh, by the way, we're putting Women Wednesday back on next week.
Yep.
But I know next Thursday, we got Senator Joe Morrissey right here in the herd. I'm not sure if he's coming in or if he's doing it virtual yet, but we'll get to that point. But let me tell you, that's going to be a good damn, man. You get to that out.
A good what?
Good conversation. A good conversation. You know when Senator Morrissey's here, it's going to be a good conversation. So we're looking forward to that. So we will see you next week. Everybody take care and...
Get in the herd.
No.
Stay in the herd.
On 3. All right, everybody take care and stay in the herd. Oh, wait, I said on...